Conversations with Iris. Here's your host, my loving wife, Iris.
Hola, mi gente bonita. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Conversations with Iris, the space where real talk meets raw truth. And of course, that little thing I like to call healing and hard. I love bringing you guys that Latino flair straight up to your ears because a little sazon comes right through your ears with some good conversations. Because you know what? I don't just bring any type of people here. I love to bring all peoples of walks of life. Because you know what? I feel at the end of the day, every story deserves to be heard and every journey deserves to be heard. Why not? Whatever you're doing, sharing your story, raising awareness, whatever you're doing, I just want to hear about it. And we need to tell it all to all of our family and listeners out there. And of course, before we dive into the conversation, y'all already know I got to show some big love to the podcast family that started this or that made this little podcast that could. And that's the Short Desk Podcast. That's right. My amazing hubby and, of course, a co-founder and creative mind of this wonderful podcast. Of course, he's the founder, not the co-founder there, of these both powerful and meaningful shows out there. And these gentlemen just bring it raw, bring you the truth. And I just love them. Make sure you check out the Short Desk Podcast. And hey, let's be real. Don't forget about me. Conversations with Iris is streaming on all platforms, okay? And listen, you got to hit download, listen, and share. Go ahead and tell people about it, whether you're driving, dancing, going to work, taking a quick break. I promise you, you're going to enjoy these conversations because you know what? Trust me, your voice matters. So definitely pick up that headphones and listen up to it. And of course, I want to go ahead and thank those cities and those countries that have been downloading us because it just means so much. I want to give a shout out to Marique Morocco. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry if I'm not. Also to Reykjavik, Iceland. I'm so happy. And of course, I got to take it back to New Orleans. My family out there. I love me some New Orleans vibe. Let me tell you guys something. That gumbo, the vibes, all that good stuff, the history, the Gothic side of it. Thank you, New Orleans, for what you do. That coon soup. I don't eat raccoon soup, but I'm just saying, I know that's what you guys are known for. Thank you, everyone, from tuning in around the world. Now, let's get back to our guest. But hold up. Let me get this straight. I want to let you guys know. He is not just a guest. He is family, okay? He is our traveling bestie, our back in the day roomie. And he is, I have to say, he's pretty much an awesome pet sitter. And he is also my yearly New York Broadway trip traveling brother. You heard that, yes. Every year, Broadway, it happens with us. Yes, it does. He's been woven into the very fabric of our family's life and holidays and just we have heartwarming conversations and everything in between. And today, yes, today, he's bringing that powerful, raw, and beautifully unfiltered story to y'all mic, okay? To y'all ears, okay? But this Midwestern man, what makes the story just so powerful, he basically packed his whole world. And he took a leap of faith and headed to our bold, sun-drenched state of Florida. He was just trying to find that peace, the purpose, and basically the next chapter of his life. And that's what he was doing. He's also the survivor of an abusive relationship and a man deep in faith who found his spiritual roots in Judaism, which is pretty phenomenal. He's also a fluid man who walks boldly, okay? Walking in truth. And let's be honest, he's also the life of a party. So please help me welcome our brother from another mother, Mr. Dr. Bobby Kennieth Jones. Welcome. Bienvenidos.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. That is quite the introduction. I'm flattered. Thank you.
Oh my God. I'm glad that you like it. What I should have told our audience members is the truth about you, sir.
And what's that truth?
I should have told them how late you are for parties. He is boldly blunt. He is a hot mess, crazy, but at the end of the day, he is a loving brother, I have to say.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Should I tell them the truth?
I'm not late. I'm not late.
That's a lie.
She says I'm late for the party. The party doesn't start until I get there, so I'm right on time. There you go.
So listen, before we dive in to the layers of your story, which we got to get into, oh my goodness. And we got to start out with something light. And if you could share your energy today, if you could describe a vibe, a color, or even a drink, what would that be? Tell us.
Fire and let me see. Fire. That's me. That's my personality. Fire and ice is a perfect description, I would say, honestly. I am. She says I'm the life of the party, but I'm really only the life of the party
Whatever.
for those who know me.
Whatever.
I am not a people person if
First
I
of
don't
all,
know you.
Don't start with that. What is it? What is it? Introvert shit that you say?
I am 100% an introvert. Until I get to know you, then I'm an extrovert. That's me. Color is red. Red because red is bright. It's vibrant. It announces its presence before it even enters the room. A drink.
Rojo, red. Okay.
Yes, spicy. You know, that's me. A drink. A drink would be Jamaican rum. Jamaican rum. Powerful. It'll knock you on your ass.
Yeah? It sounds like a multiple personality disorder type thing going on here.
I'm a lot to handle. I am a lot to
I
handle.
see that. You know what? I love this. Thank you so much for letting our listeners know a little bit about you and who you are. I can see that we're starting to get kind of like a little test of the man behind this phenomenal story we're going to tell you guys. So, okay. Let's rewind a little bit. Take us back to where did you grow up and what was life in the Midwest and how that environment changed the person who you are now. Let's talk about that and let's unpack those layers a little bit. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So I am born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. Put heavy emphasis on Missouri.
Not Missouri.
Not Missouri, Missouri. And I'm from the Missouri side, not the Kansas side.
Get it right.
Yes, get it right. To everyone who's outside of the Midwest. That's a pain point for all of us from Kansas City. But I am from a traditional Midwestern family. I would say a conservative family. Very strong Christian dogmatic practices. I grew up, for anyone who knows Pentecostal roots, I grew up in the Pentecostal church.
That's deep. Like everyday type church thing?
Like we were in church on Sunday morning for Sunday school, Sunday service, Sunday night, Wednesday, Tuesday choir rehearsal, Friday night deliverance services. It just was a mess.
Wow.
No offense to those who are in that world, but it just was not for me. But that which shaped me. I was raised in that environment. My grandpa was my pastor. My father was a minister. Or was a minister. My stepdad was a deacon in the church, and I had aunts who preached. I was a churchy kid, right? But growing up in Kansas City, I grew up in the suburbs, and just very, very, like I said, a considerable conservative family. So those are the values I was raised on. I was raised to just treat everybody how you want to be treated, love everyone, and don't mistreat people. And respect life. That's kind of me. So that's kind of my upbringing and my value system, if you will. Fast forward to what brings me to Florida. I am artistic by nature. I'm a singer. I used to write music. I've kind of put that down, and I would like to pick it back up. But I wrote a bunch of music. I've been singing my entire life. I probably was singing before I came out the womb and talked, actually. But my whole family's a singing family, so you kind of had to be that person. I also dance, have background in contemporary dance. I dabbed in the commercial modeling world, and so I'm the artistic person. That's me. My background: I went to college for broadcasting and journalism. So like I said, I love to write. I'm passionate about writing, and then a little bit in the news space. But so that's kind of my upbringing, my background. But what brought me to Florida is I remember it was 2011. My corporate job at the time, I absolutely despised. Like, you talk about hating a job and you're praying like, Lord, send a miracle, help me find a way. I remember they called us in. They were like, hey, we're going to let you all go and lay you off in 2 months. You talk about answer to prayer. Everybody in the room was crying because they were there. What am I going to do? And I was like ready to jump out of the building. Like, thank God for miracles. But, at that time, I was 26 or 27, and I left. A buddy of mine called me up. He was like, "Hey, have you thought about, I got a venture for you. You thought about, selling security?" And I was like, "What the hell is that? What are you talking about?" So I left. I was based out of Tennessee, and door to door knocking, and let me tell you, door to door sales is character building.
It's rough. Yeah.
It is character building.
Yeah.
But I did that for a year, stacked a little bit of cash or whatnot. Well, I would say I didn't dot every I and cross every T in that contract, which came to bite me in the butt a little bit later. But that's another story.
Mm.
And I wanted to pursue singing. I didn't want to sit in a boring corporate space. And I just wanted to pursue my arts and, make a stab at it, make a run at it. And so I was in Nashville for a season, and I just really felt like God was stirring my heart. And he was like, this is not the place for you. And anyone who knows anything about the music industry, I would say particularly Nashville, and for the style of writing and the style of music that I enjoy and that I do, it was a very, very hard world to kind of break into and whatnot. But I felt like something was stirring and telling me to move. I looked up and I went back home to Kansas City for a few weeks. I still had a place there. I got rid of that place. I sold everything, and I just packed up my car and whatever would fit in my car. And
Mm.
I hit the road.
Wow.
And my parents, my mom particularly, she was extremely nervous. I could tell. And I left her this book on her bed. And so there's this book. I read it once a year. And it's called The Dream Giver. And it is all about chasing your dreams and conquering the fear and the giants that may live out in the land and trying to take you down and conquering your border bullies.
Okay.
Um, and I was like, I don't have a hard plan, but I'm going to chase this dream that's in front of me. And I left, hit the road, and traveled down the highway, and I ended up in Orlando.
Mm.
And I did I did a little bit of modeling here and there. I did the circuit where I was doing all the auditions for like the shows here and at Disney and Universal, and we had a place at the time called Holy Land Experience, and just all
Oh, I
all the
remember
all
that.
those different things. And I fell into so all after all that dried up, fell into my big boy corporate job.
Oh, wow. So taking it back a little bit,
Yeah.
and I love where this is going, and I love how you're telling us a little bit about, coming to Florida here, 2011, landing this big job here that you were working. You were not so happy. But I want to just take it back a notch because I want to touch, base on the fact that you were a Midwestern man and you
Mhm.
grew up in a very heavily involved church family, Pentecostals. You went to church a lot. And I know that you're an open book because I know you because you're
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
brother. And if you are comfortable sharing with us,
Yeah.
before you went to Florida, at what point in your journey did you embrace who you really were, your identity? I'm assuming that this all happened before you moved to Florida.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
talk to us a little bit about that. How was that because you grew up in a Black family,
Yeah.
very focused on church? So let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. For me to be and I hate labels.
Conservative?
Yeah. Let me tell you, I hit the lottery. Let me tell you, one for me to be a quote unquote gay man or whatever. And I hate labels because whatever
Mhm.
I'm feeling in the moment. The joke is I'm in a guy phase, right? But I've dated
What the
women.
heck?
I date women. I date men. I've dated a trans person at one point in
Okay,
my
so
life.
you consider yourself, let's say,
I'm
fluid.
fluid. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And I want to just talk a little bit about that because I love the LGBT community plus. I have to add the plus there. I love the community, and I think these people need to embrace the community more, need to be involved. I really have genuine love and support for our LGBTQ plus members. But I know that there's a lot of meanings behind it, which I totally respect. So, can you tell us, because we deal with bisexualism, we have transgender, we have gay, we have queer, what does it mean to be fluid to you? What is that?
Yeah, so I guess if I had to fit into a box, technically I would be, I guess, what they call pansexual, right?
Okay.
And what that means to me is I don't focus on the anatomy of an individual. I focus on the heart of an individual. I know that sounds so
Okay.
cheesy and cliche, right? But I fall in love with a person like as
Love is love.
yeah, I fall in love
It
with
is.
the personality, the
Mm-hmm.
heart, the individual, and I don't care what you got going on downstairs.
Right, right.
If it's a woman, great, then that's cool. I'm excited, but If it's a trans individual, whatever, that's great. I'm excited. If it's a man, that's cool.
Okay.
And so that's me. And it's so funny because growing up, I always knew I liked guys, right? Growing up, but I looked at girls too, and whatever. Now I do have a natural. I think to me, sexuality is a spectrum. And you have some people that are on one end and on the other, but I think a lot of people honestly live somewhere in that middle range. Now I do heavily tend towards towards guys or whatever, but to me I thought that was normal. I thought that was natural, growing up, until I got to be about a certain age, somewhere in elementary or whatnot, and I really started hearing the dogma that was being preached in my family, right?
Mm.
And so for it's like I mentioned, I hit the quote unquote lottery. So one, I grew up in a conservative household. I grew up in a black household, and I grew up in a very strong Christian household. Those three like do not go well when you are a gay boy trying to discover the world, right?
Your identity.
Yes.
Oh, I can only
And
imagine.
and
How
so
was that? How was that?
it was rough. I never claimed to be the most masculine person on the planet. I'm not a super feminine person either, I have my whatever tendencies or whatever. And so growing up as a kid, you know, maybe my having to worry about, well, maybe my wrist was too limp in this environment. I became a chameleon very quickly. I learned how to talk in different circles and how to speak in ways that wouldn't quote unquote give me away because it wasn't a safe space. How to walk differently in certain environments, how to talk differently. And so it's a struggle. It's a story. I feel like that's unique to a lot of people in the gay world because we learn how to adapt to our environment to survive. And honestly, that's exactly what it is. But I remember I was 14 years old, and I started. I was dating. I use the term loosely. I was dating a guy in my grandfather's church,
Uh-oh.
and
At your church?
yes,
Inside the church?
inside the church.
Ay, Dios mío.
I hate. But I was dating him. I really liked this guy. He was 2 years older. I really liked him. And I don't even remember the details of how it slipped, but it got to my grandmother. And this was the summertime. And during the summer, this was the summer before I think my freshman year, and I was working at the church summer camp, right? And my grandfather, who was the pastor, he called me up to his office, and I don't remember that whole conversation, but I what's scarred in my memory. He goes, "Niebuhr." That's my family nickname. But he goes, "Niebuhr." I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Your mouth has no business on another man's penis." And I'm just
Oh
like,
my goodness.
I'm mortified, right? And I just remember shaking my head and a whole lot of yes sirs and no, blah 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 blah, just to get the hell out of his office.
Oh my gosh.
And I come downstairs, and I see my grandma off to the side talking, and I'm like, oh crap, I know what's happening. But in the end of the day, my dad picked me up, and he's off to the side talking to my grandmother, and I'm like, shh, all right, it's just about to hit the fan. And my father, I get in the car, and he just lets me have it. And he's like, "Can you change?" And I carry his name, and he's like, "You can't be no son of mine if this is going to be you, and I need you to change." And blah 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 blah. Do you think you can change? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
You know. Um, and we went out to this restaurant, and I remember a few of my family showed up. I had some aunts and some uncles and cousins that showed up and whatnot, and it just became a berating session. He can't be my son if he's gay, and I'm not gonna have it, and I won't stand for it, and blah 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 blah. And it was like a scene out of like a drama movie. And I remember I stormed away from the table, and I'm running through the restaurant, and my stepmom chases after me, and she's like, "I don't care what he says, you're my son," and blah blah blah, and I
No,
love
that's
you. And
good.
and that was very traumatic,
I bet.
and
I'm
that
sorry.
that was at 14. And that kind of I was close to my father. Like I said, I'm a child of divorce. My parents divorced when I was in elementary school, and they both remarried different people when I was in middle school. And so I was close to my father. I spent the summers with my father, living with my mom during the school year, and very close to him. But that strained our relationship, you know. And it was because of he was a minister, and I was his son, and I carried his name, and it was all about image and all that, right? But My mom had a different take. My stepdad had a different take. I call pops, and they they didn't agree. They were in church. They didn't agree, and they were like, we're not gonna allow it in our household, but we love you. And even just that, I was like, okay, and it was like walking on eggshells and teetering around for a little bit, but it was healing. I needed that. I couldn't change their mentality overnight, but it was healing, and I needed that. And just for your listeners, don't bash my father. But fast forward a few years, years down the road, I've lived here now, and there was a few years ago, me and my dad came down to visit, and we were in Sarasota, and I remember, I'll never forget, we were sitting on the beach, and we were hanging out, and we had like a 4-hour conversation.
Really?
And my
Okay.
dad was basically, he was like, be good to people. You get one life, live it pure, and love who you want to love. I
Mm-hmm.
love you. And I was just like,
Oh, that's awesome.
whoa.
That's beautiful.
I looked around for aliens, like, who has possessed my father? But I mean, and that honestly, that rekindled us. I talk to my dad all the time. Like, we're good.
So that happened many years later.
Oh yeah.
You were living here in Florida, and did you feel that time like, wow, he finally accepted who I am?
That was peaceful for me. This was probably maybe about 8 or I don't know, about 8 years or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was awesome. It was awesome. But I had already got to the point in my life where I was like, I don't care. I am who I am. I think I was like 30, or just turned 30 or so at the time, or whatever. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
you know I'm good. I know who I am. My relationship with God is content. I'm solid there. And if people love me, they'll love me. And if they don't love me, then they can leave. I love me. I'm comfortable with me. And it took a long time for me to get to that point, because I went through, like I said, I was raised in a church where I was taught I had a demon in me. And so I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I fasted, and I was at the altars, and I had people laying hands on me, and they were like trying
Wow.
to like, perform exorcisms. And I went through it all, and like this pray the gay away conversion type stuff, right? Um, I would lay awake at night and just bawl my eyes out, and I would beg God to take my life. I was like, take me out of here. If you can't change me, why? you know
Mm.
they taught, it was real hellfire brimstone, like, you're gonna burn in hell for this. And I was just like, well, God, why would he make me this way? Why would he create me only to destroy me? That never made sense to me, which put me on the path of my spiritual journey, but that never made sense to me.
Wow. So would you say that was it suicidal thoughts at that point?
Oh, tons.
You had tons of suicidal
Tons. I
thoughts?
had to go to counseling. And shit hit the fan right about my senior year in high school. I was dealing with that. I had to seek counseling. I had dealt with sexual molestation when I was 6 or 7 years old from summer like summer school program worker, or a teacher or whatever. And I suppressed that, and I
Mm.
started having these nightmares, and I'm like, what is going on? And I remember sitting in the drive through, and I just broke down. I was talking to my mom, and I was like, this happened to me. And it was a rough few years during that time. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, wow. So I'm counseling through
Wow.
that from past trauma. I'm counseling through the rejection from family, and then dealing with, well, am I destined to this torturous place for eternity? And like, I was like, just end it.
Oh, wow. So do you think that that's what drove your decision to leave
I think
and go to Florida?
it didn't drive the decision to leave. It made it easy not to stay. If that's a
Okay.
difference. There was definitely, my decision to leave was to pursue my passion. It was to do the arts and things of that nature. And I know a lot of people have a desire to leave home, but close family ties keep them home. I didn't have that. So I wasn't running away from family, but my family didn't keep me there. Does that make sense?
Understood. So you went through this traumatic experience, which is unfortunate. I'm sorry. And we hear this a lot in the LGBTQ community, that it's unfortunate that a lot of families have a hard time accepting, their loved ones, or, when they're going through this identity crisis, which is unfortunate. So fast forwarding a little bit,
Yeah.
heading back to Florida, you started this, new life, 2011, you're here. Let's go ahead and rewind, or actually, no, fast forward a little
Yeah.
bit, and let's talk about that journey. You started working, and I definitely want to touch base on how, when did you come up with this horrific abusive relationship? So you got away from the identity issue in the family, but then it didn't stop there. What
Right.
happened?
So early on in my days living in Florida, being new to a place, not knowing anyone, so I'm out and about in the town, right? I'm in the club scene. I was young. I was 27 or 28 when I first moved here. So I'm in the club scene, and I'm out trying to just make friends and meet people because I didn't have a clue who anyone was here. And there was a guy I met who was in my complex, in my community, and I just was walking through the community as I do, because I'm an outdoorsy person. And he was standing on this balcony, and he made googly eyes at me, and I'm like, okay, hey, how you doing? And let me tell you, sidebar. So I moved to Florida. So when I was in Kansas City, I dated like white guys and black guys. Very vanilla in Kansas City. It's like white, black, and Mexican.
It is what it is,
That,
right?
yeah, that's what you got. I moved to Florida, and I'm like, whoa.
Well, with what? Latinos?
They're my kryptonite.
He likes Latino men.
Ay, ay, ay.
Hold on. Let's do a disclaimer. If there's any Latino guys out there, he's single. Okay.
Come with your shit together. I'm sorry.
You can curse. Hey, my podcast is an open book, so you could curse all you want.
Oh, yes.
I want the real raw truth. Come
And
on.
so, very, very handsome Puerto Rican guy. And so he comes over to my place, and we're talking, hanging out, whatnot. And we're vibing, and things are we're chill, and things are good. And so I don't remember the circumstances, like 2012, and he had to move out of his place, and I was like, well, you can move in with me, sure, come on in, move in with me. We're hanging out, and it was one of those relationships. I always looked at abusive. First of all, I never thought I'd be in an abusive relationship, but then I always looked at people who were in abusive relationships, and I was like, how could you stay?
Easier
Yeah,
said than done, huh?
let me tell you how you can stay. First off, he didn't start off being physically abusive. Looking back, and having gone through counseling again, like, I'm a product of counseling. I am a proponent. Get you a therapist. Talk to somebody about your issues. Like, you need to process life. But looking back, he was very I know the tag phrase of the day is narcissism, right? But he was a true narcissist. He beat me down mentally first, and he talked to me. I've always had a very high self-esteem of myself, and very confident in who I am, but he tore me down mentally and emotionally, to the point where only thing left was physical. And I had no value, no self-worth. And so when he started hitting me, I was like, well, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Who's going to take me? Who's going to accept me? And I finally, having gone through enough of that, one night he came home from the club drunk, and it was my space now, it was my house, but over the time he was bringing people into my house,
Oh my goodness.
having his fun,
Really?
and just like all in my face. I'm just like, what is going on? And Oakley would never have stood for that. So why was I then standing for that? He came home drunk from the club one night, and it was one of those, when he was not drinking, he was the sweetest person, the most amazing, gentle, warm person, right? But when he started drinking, it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And he came home, and I was asleep, and he literally flipped the bed when I was in it. He picked up the bed and flipped it and went full Hulk smash on me and smacked me and punched me in my face. But then the bed came back and like crashed on top of him. And he was so drunk, he just laid there. He had like a gash in his back or whatever. And I just kind of was like, let him just stew, right? He came to the next morning, sobered up or whatever. He's all apologetic. But that was like, I thought I was going to die that night. And so I worked downtown Orlando at the time. And I remember on my lunch break, I left and I walked to the courthouse. And I found myself on the 10th floor in the domestic, violence unit or whatnot. And I looked around that room, and it broke my heart. And First of all, it broke my heart to see all the women in that room with me. And I was the only guy in
Oh,
the room, but I'm like, and the people who are trying to get away from their partners and trying to, and it just was like, wow. So I filed, I filed my case and whatnot. And I remember came home and I talked to some of my coworkers and I was like, you got to help me. I got to get out. I got to get a
so
place.
you
And
got
so
help.
I got,
Okay.
I ended up finding a place with two other girls who were my coworkers, and literally almost like overnight, he was at work one day. I left work early with a coworker. We packed up my place, packed up my stuff, and I just left.
Good.
And
Good for
he
you.
called and he was like, "Oh, so you just gonna dip out on me?" And I was like, "Bye, we're done."
Mm,
I don't even know what happened with the lease, all that. Like I don't know what happened with all that. I was like, I'm done with you,
yeah.
and that was that. But and I'm grateful that I have a story to tell, and not an obituary.
Oh my God. So is that what you would call healing for you? Like that's what the starting of your healing relationship looked like with yourself? And I mean, what happened to you right after that? And what did you learn from that abusive relationship about yourself?
It was very eye opening. I just surrounded myself with friends in that season. I totally surrounded myself with friends in that season. And I started putting heavy emphasis on the relationships around me. And I started valuing like where what I was circling myself around. Prior to moving to Florida, I had been around influential people and I had mentors that I was allowing to kind of speak into my life. And so I had still had some of those lessons that I was
Hmm.
neglecting and ignoring. And I finally started remembering those lessons that I was learning. And I just started putting them to practice. And so finding value in myself. And so I did not date. I was like, well, I'm not jumping from relationship to relationship.
Good.
I have to heal myself and heal the wounds. And it took like a legitimate couple years before I was even ready to get back on the market and trust anybody. Um, and I had to, I remember reading a bunch of like self-help books and things like that, just to like work on like my overall personality, because I had taken a really severe shot, mentally.
Yeah.
And it took a while, but I snapped back out of it. And my friends in that season of my life were invaluable,
Oh,
speaking life into me, loving me, and really showing how valuable I was and what I brought to the table, what I bring to relationships. There's
mhm.
like, Kennieth, you matter, and this is why you matter. And I was just like, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I love that you are not shy to put out there, hey, counseling is okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you talk about counseling, you talk about surrounding yourself with a beautiful support system
Yeah.
because I feel like you need that when you're going through whatever you're going through, identity
Yeah.
crisis or an abusive relationship, whatever you're going through. And I love that.
Yeah.
I really love that. And I feel like, sometimes our biggest breakthroughs in life just come through the hardest situations in life, right?
Always. And I think it's unique because like your mind is open. When you're at like rock bottom, your mind is open and receptive to anything that is going to just free you and bring about change. And so I was ready to be healed in that moment. I was at a church in that, and in that time, through this whole time, like, even though my family, quote unquote, was telling me, I was an abomination, I'm full of demons and blah 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 blah, I've always had a very strong relationship with God. And so, like, I was in church, and my pastor knew my whole circumstance. He knew my situation and all that. I was very transparent, because of my gifts, I've always
Hmm.
been like upfront, leading worship and things like that, right?
Helping others.
Absolutely. And so I've always told, my pastors, I'm like, hey, this is who I am. I'm confident and content in this. My relationship with God is good, but I know your quote unquote church bylaws and rules say this. So I'm gonna be very transparent with you. This is Kennieth. I'm not, and so my pastors afforded me the response. They were like, okay. I remember my pastor at the time, he was like, well, you're not in a relationship, you're not quote unquote living in sin, whatever the hell that means. You can lead worship. And I'm like, sure, okay,
Yeah.
I'll let you know if I ever get in a relationship, and I'll give you the respect and I'll step down. I'll respect your platform. And so, but talking to him, as well as, talking to professional counseling and things like that, I had great relationships that came out of church. And let me tell you about those relationships from that particular church. Um, Everyone was transplants. The circle that I gathered myself around, they were transplants like me. So they didn't have any ties here. And it's very unique. Anyone in your audience who's traveled and left home, they can tell you, like, you place a higher value on friendship because those friendships become family. And so this little circuit of friends that I had made in that church, we became family. We became
Oh,
brothers
that's
and sisters.
awesome.
And I was able to be very honest and raw with them. And they were like, "We love you, bro. We don't care." And to have healing and to have love and acceptance from the faith community, that strengthened my walk with God as well. And that helped in my journey of getting back to who Kennieth was when he first came to Florida. So
I
that,
love that. I love that because you're sharing your spiritual journey, but like you also shared how Judaism
yeah,
was really big part of your life and basically led you to this different spiritual path.
100%.
You've embraced your previous family from a different church.
Yeah.
You were leading a faith now to a different Judaism path, I would say.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying that right. But how did that faith show up differently? What happened there after you developed these wonderful, wonderful family at this other church?
Well, that's an interesting story. So all those transplants left. We're still amazing friends today. I travel the country and visit them and all that. We have the friendship bond has not been broken. They're no longer in Orlando.
That's good.
But they left, and so I was kind of like homeless in this church. I'm like, well, and I've always been weary of church people, because child, don't get me started.
No offense, no offense.
So that's why I cherish those relationships, because it's very rare in my past experience to find transparent, vulnerable, honest people in the church who are like, yeah, we love God and we're pursuing God, but I'm flawed. Like, everybody wants to put on airs like they shit don't stink. Like, bruh, you got drama, you got issues. You and your wife cussed each other out on the way to the church house.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, your kid's probably a drunk. Get it together. Like, that's who I relate to.
Yeah.
Humans.
Yeah,
humans who are trying to be good and trying to love God and be light, but are like, bruh, I am flawed. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of people in churches, that's not my experience. Let me say that. And so when they all left, I was like, oh, well, here I'm homeless again. And what happened simultaneously, it was like I was starting to feel like me go through this season of depression. And I would go through, in my past, I would go through bouts of depression every like few years. They would come on it was like a cycle. And I remember specifically this was the end of 17 coming into 18, and I felt it coming. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. I was proactive. I'm like I mentioned, I'm an outdoorsy person, right?
Yeah.
I connect with God in nature. And so I stepped
that's
away from all my leadership positions in the church. And I just became like a regular little Sunday attender. And even to the point where I would even go on some Sundays, I would just get up and go to the beach. And I'm laying on the sand and I'm soaking up the sun and I'm in the waves and like I'm feeling God in that moment. I'm getting healed. And I would go visit family in Colorado and I would just spend time in the mountains. And I'm like, it helped my mental space. Like, here's what, again, I'm generalizing, so don't stone me, but I don't think the church world handles the physical and the spiritual together. Like, some people battle with depression, mental illness, and blah, 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 blah. And it's not a quote unquote demon. Like, help me out. You know what I'm saying? But I knew the signs that brought me. First of all, I knew the triggers. I saw the warning signs and I knew, okay, what's going to get me help. And so I was in nature. I was in the beach and I was up in the mountains. And it was I remember being in the beach and I felt God talk to me. And he just very simple. And he was like, well, what do you call me? And I was like, I don't know. Yahweh, I guess Yahweh. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm like, that's Hebrew. So I'm thinking, well, okay, I feel spiritually droughted or dry. Let me, and I'm born and raised in the church. I'm a church kid, right?
Yeah.
I was like, well, okay, let me learn Hebrew, because supposedly Christianity comes from Hebrew and the Jewish faith. That's going to make me a strong Christian. Boy, was I wrong. I had found a rabbi. I had started studying Hebrew, and just to make a long story short, but I had found a rabbi. I started studying Hebrew, and I started studying like the scriptures in its original text and its language, and learning about the Hebrew culture. And I had done genealogy and tracked my family through the lineages and all that, and I was like, wow, my ancestral lineage actually has roots in African Jewishness or Judaism, right? Like
Wow.
Jews from Africa. Um, how do we become Christians? So I started studying this language and this culture and these customs, and I started studying what we call the Torah, and it felt familiar. I don't know how to explain that, but it felt familiar. And so I went through the process, and I don't say I had a quote unquote conversion. I just say I returned home. My soul, I was born with a Jewish soul, with a Hebrew soul, and I just felt like I
Mhm.
returned home. But what I did notice is when I left the church world and I renounced Christianity and I came into the fullness of my Hebrew faith and I became a Jew, or just realized I was a Jew and woke up to it, rather, right? I felt a peace. There was a calmness that happened internally that I can't even begin to explain to you. But people saw it outwardly. My life was always in a chaotic state, and it became very organized and very centered and very aligned. And I just became very content with Kennieth as a whole. And I had to unlearn a lot of Christian doctrine that I no longer subscribe to, and a lot of the theories that I no longer subscribe to. And that brought me peace, and I was like concepts and theories, like, what Christians teach about heaven and hell and all that. And I was just like, well, that's different over here, right? Um, and so I remember talking to like my rabbi, and I'm telling him, like, this is who I am. What does the Torah say about this? And
Mhm.
he was very honest. The scripture talks about, the Torah forbids homosexuality and all that, but not as unto death. He was like, well, why? I was like, because the Torah is all about life. And it's a scientific fact. Two gay women can't make a baby. Two gay men can't make a
Yeah.
baby, right? And that's the whole angle of it. It has nothing to do with all this other type of stuff. And I was like,
Mm.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
That's practical. And that's
Mm.
what my faith is. My faith is practical. Um, I love how my faith it doesn't turn its back on science, like, because it was kind of like taboo growing up, but like the science, and it just was really cool because I had a lot of answers to questions that I'd always had as a child. I was like, well, what about this and what about that? And growing up, they always were just like faith, faith, faith. That's not an answer. And I came
Mm.
over here and the rabbis were giving me answers. And I was like, well, all right then. Okay.
Oh my God. So, and I love this. And I thank you for sharing that you basically found this new Jewish community that basically embraced you and loved you
Absolutely.
and just basically took you in. And
Yeah.
what would you say to someone that is struggling with their identity right now, that they're trying to find who they are inside, but they're very involved in the church or their family is?
Yeah.
What would you tell to someone like that?
First, I would say you have to silence the outside voices. You have to silence the outside voices. You cannot listen to what your pastor is saying, what your parents are saying. What is the inner voice in you? We're all created in the image of God,
Yeah.
right? We all have a soul, and the soul, we believe that the soul comes from God. And so God is in you. He's in every single one of us, right? So he's already talking to you and communicating with you and communing with you. So you have to find peace within. You have to align and come to comfort within first and foremost. And when that happens, it's like a switch. I don't care what the outside world says. If it aligns with my view, awesome. If it does not align with my view, I
Mm.
can turn that dial off, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But if you are constantly seeking for validation out externally, you're going to always walk in that chaos and that confusion, that blindness. Validation comes from within. And so that's the first thing you have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Validation comes from within. Truth comes from within. And when you grab a hold of that, there is not any person that can shake you from any foundation that you have, because it's truth and you're rooted
Mm.
in that.
I love that. So Be okay with who you are.
100%.
Be content with who you are.
Be content.
Embrace it.
Absolutely.
Own it.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that.
And walk in it.
Yes.
And you know what I found when you truly walk in your authentic self and authentic truth, you draw the most amazing people to your life, because people are drawn to authenticness. They're drawn to realness. They're drawn to transparency. They're drawn to vulnerability, right? They're drawn to realness. I have some of the most amazing, tight-knit people in my life, like you.
Oh, thank you.
And
my
Keith.
family,
Absolutely.
my hubby.
The Hardricks are lifeblood.
Thank you.
But that came because Kennieth is content in Kennieth.
Yes.
And Kennieth is not wearing a mask anymore, you know? When you find that, you can throw the mask out, because everybody who seeks validation externally, they're walking around in masks. They're walking around as chameleons. Like, I mean, in the LGBT world, we become masters at it.
Yeah.
To the point
It's unfortunate.
To the point where you lose yourself.
Yeah.
You don't even know who you are.
Yeah, you got to embrace yourself.
100%.
Oh my God. Kennieth, bro, I appreciate you being fully transparent, speaking your truth, and so boldly, fearless, bringing that energy that you have. And before we wrap up, can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Well, I mean, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. You know, Instagram, I'm Kennieth_Raylon. It's K-E.
What a name.
It's KENNIETH.
Should be Dr. Bobby. That's what you should be.
So you heard they're calling me Dr. Bobby. That's going to fly over everybody's head. For anybody who knows Dr. Bobby Jones from the gospel world. So on occasion,
my hubby gave you that name.
Yeah, he did, because he's extra.
Hey, that's my hubby. Hey.
On occasion, I'll grow my hair out and curl it and do all the things. And so it's Bobby. Yeah, it's the whole thing. But Bobby Jones, and I walk around. Extra. And yeah, because I'm extra. They say I'm extra. I don't think I'm extra. But anyway, yeah. But Kennieth_Raylon. You find me on Instagram. Kennieth Jones at Facebook. Yeah, you know, and like Iris said, I mean, not to be that person, but since I'm on air, you know.
Oh my God.
If you got your stuff together and hey, you believe in monogamy.
He needs a papi chulo.
That's a whole other thing. Because let me tell you about, everybody wants open relationships in 2025.
Yeah.
What the hell is that
That's
about?
not my thing.
No, I want one individual that I can commit to. Like, I'm not about that.
Everyone's different. Hey, if that's your thing, hey, embrace it. But that's, you know, I'm looking forward to interview a guest like that. I'm curious.
Different strokes for different folks. There you go. It's not my thing, though. So there you go. And you can find me in Orlando. There you go.
Thank you. And let us know, what is next for you? I told you about this. You need to write a book. Mm-hmm. First of all, you need to write a book. So what is next in store in this? Because we're so young. We got a whole life ahead of us. Absolutely. So what's going on? What's next for you?
I want to return to the creative and the artistic space. I definitely want to write. I love writing. So I want to get back to that. I want to get back to that space. I want to get back to creative writing. And I think there's some books that are inside of me that need to come out.
Yes.
And so that's what's next for me.
Okay. We'll be in the lookout for that and hopefully have you back on the show.
Absolutely.
To talk about your journey here. And before we let you go, what is that one mantra or quote or little firm of advice that you have for someone that needs to hear this, that, again, maybe struggling with identity, maybe struggling with an abusive relationship? What is that one little thing you want to just leave them with?
Well, there's two little things, actually. There's a tagline that I have on all my emails. There's a tag, and the tag, and I can't take any credit for it. I heard this from someone years and years ago. But it says, too many people walk around like Clark Kent, unaware that they are really Superman. So there's that. There's so much greatness inside of each and every single one of you and there's so much just unfulfilled potential that people have not locked into or tapped into. That's one. But what I personally live by is, if I can change it, I change it. And if I can't change it, I don't stress about it.
Drop that mic. Whoop. I heard it drop. I love that. To my beautiful people listening, thank you all for allowing to share this beautiful conversation with us. And your time, your energy, everything means the world to me. And once again, I want to thank you, brother, from another mother. Again, thank you for joining us and sharing this beautiful, unfiltered story.
Thank you for having me. It's been an awesome pleasure.
No, until next time, y'all already know, keep the conversations going. I'm here and I'm your girl. Con mucho amor. This is Conversation with Iris. Thank you.